Please know that Indigenous peoples across Canada is being heard, are now dealing with trauma and deep wounds.
Acknowledging that they're coming from a place of trauma and grief, Tk'emlups Secwepemc Chief Rosanne Casimir gave the first update to the media since news broke of the horrifying apparent find last week. Among the things she wanted to clarify, they are not calling this a mass grave.
This is not a mass grave, but rather unmarked burial sites that are, to our knowledge, also undocumented.
As far as technical details about what equipment was used, who conducted the search with ground-penetrating radar, and how that data was processed and analyzed, those facts will be released to the public, but not now.
These are preliminary findings, and that we expect to have a final report near the end of this month.
Casimir also called on the branch of the Catholic Church that ran the school, the Order of the Oblates of Mary Immaculate, to release records pertaining to the school. She also called for a public apology from the church.
In the end, what we do want an apology, a public apology, not just for us, but for the world who also shared in those suffrages.
With the announcement that the RCMP has opened a case file on the discovery, Casimir said the Mounties will need to follow their lead on the investigation, pointing out historically the RCMP were involved in forcing Indigenous children into residential schools. As the memorial grows in front of the former school building, Casimir said their intention is not to tear it down, as other First Nations have done, but to leave it standing as a stark memorial to Canada's history of residential schools. Paul Johnson, Global News, Vancouver.
On Monday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said dealing with Canada's awful legacy of residential schools was his top priority, and he promised what he called concrete action. Now, at the end of the week, Trudeau is again promising concrete action, though as David Akin explains, the government's next steps are not yet clear.
Yes, there is much more action to come. There is much more work to be done.
But specifics for now are missing, though some Indigenous groups say one step would be to hand over documents that Indigenous communities say are vital to helping locate burial sites and information about children who never returned home. Some of those documents are held by Ottawa, some by institutions like the Catholic Church, which in some cases has refused requests for documents.
As a Catholic, I am deeply disappointed by the position that the Catholic Church has taken now and over the past many years.
Trudeau hinted that should requested documents not be forthcoming, the government may compel their production.
We have tools that we can use because truth is at the heart of understanding our past and preventing further damage to the future.
And in Kamloops, or anywhere else in the country, RCMP and other investigators will be expected to go slow.
Let's remember, again, that this is potentially a crime scene, but also may well be considered sacred grounds, and people will have views on these that we will need to respect.
Meanwhile, there are calls for external bodies like the United Nations to investigate Canada for crimes against humanity in connection to residential schools. That's fine, Trudeau said, but only if the wishes of Indigenous communities have top priority.
It's not up to international bodies to choose to come in, although they would be welcome. It is about Indigenous communities having the tools that they need to move forward.
And so next steps from Ottawa will have to wait as the Prime Minister and his officials insist that it will be Indigenous leaders, not Ottawa, that decides what next to do and when to do it. Farah?
David Akin in Ottawa, thank you.